Hey, it's Garage Quest, and today we're talking about what to do when your campaign goes off the rails. Hey, and welcome back to Garage Quest. I'm your host, May McDonough. With me, as always, is my co-host, Rusty. And he's feeling it today.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got the floral shirt going. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and this whole room smells like weed.
No, it's dragon's breath.
Oh, that's right. Dragon's breath. So today we're talking about what to do when your campaign goes off the rails. So we all know as a DM, you have to plan out what's supposed to happen, right? But let me say this before we get into this episode. Try to let things happen. Yeah. Allow your players to have free will. When they want to do something, say yes.
Yeah.
Roll with it. We are talking about those few exceptions when it really would just ruin the whole game, ruin everyone's time, or make the game 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
Because no one's there for that.
In general,
yeah,
because role-playing and character agency in the story development is a crucial part of winning at D&D.
Yeah.
You should be in the practice of crafting encounters and campaigns that don't feel on the rails because they're not railed.
Correct. That's the trick, is you really shouldn't have such tight-ended games that there aren't options for your players. Mm-hmm. That if they make an option you didn't think about, you're fucked. You really shouldn't do that. Figuring out that balance takes time and practice. But nevertheless, no matter how good at developing an encounter with lots of options you are, we recognize that there are moments, and if you're a DM, you will have many, where a player makes a choice that would truly just ruin everything. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, first of all, when and how to say no. Because in my opinion, if a player says they want to do something, the worst thing you could do back is just say, no, can't do it. Well, don't do that. That's a terrible thing, right?
Yeah, we talk about improv being like an important part of D&D from a player's perspective, right? And part of improv is yes and, right? Yep. And that's what we recommend for players when they're approaching their role-playing.
Yeah, if you're not a thespian like us, that is a crucial and pivotal exercise to learn.
DMs also have to be equally or more fluent in that skill than the players. But as DM, you don't only have the yes and tool up your sleeve. You also have the yes but.
Ah, the yes but. So what's the yes but?
So the yes but would include allowing them to momentarily feel like they're in control, but dropping a sudden obstacle or redirect or misdirect into the mix.
Okay. So ultimately, we're talking about still allowing the player to make the choice they want to make instead of just telling them no. But we say change our plans such that it's kind of a redirect, and a detour.
Yeah, and if you don't figure out how to do the redirect to get things back on the desired outcome, like for example, like I said, you never want to plan something out in stone, but there are certain anchors to a storyline that just kind of have to happen. Because that's how stories are.
Yeah.
And if the players really are catching you with your pants down on that, well, if one, you should, take some notes and go back to the drawing board about maybe figuring out how to prevent that in the future.
Yeah.
But also throw the yes but in there. And you don't have to get it back on course in one yes but.
That's
you
true.
can actually very slowly steer them back through a series of NPCs unexpectedly drop in. Yeah.
I like that. So, speaking of like obstacles we can throw in. If you need to execute the yes but, I can think of a few different ways to go about that. The first way would be the one that applies only some of the times, but it would be to change a certain truth that maybe they just weren't aware of before. So maybe they want to use a spell that really would just ruin the game. Let me stress that again. Not just make it difficult for you, but ruin the game. In that scenario, you could say, well, you do so, you use the spell, but nothing happens. It would seem like this room has some sort of anti-magic condition, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, even though you should do your best to kind of anticipate what your player characters have in their tool sets to kind of constrain encounters around that, you might find yourself, I forgot that they learned Tensor's floating disk. And that happens to be a way that I didn't foresee being able to get around this trap that triggers this whole sequence that the dungeon lynches, that's the linchpin of the dungeon right there.
My whole game is based around them trying to get around this moat, but they have this floating disc spell.
Which again, that's probably due to lack of creativity on your part, but
lack of creativity or just lack of research. Make sure to know your characters.
But these things do snowball. One unforeseen thing and another unforeseen thing, and then suddenly you're out of your out of what you imagined the possibilities being. And this just comes with practice.
Yeah.
But
so if you can't roll with it, throw in the obstacles. If you can roll with it, roll with it. Another obstacle would be just physical obstacles.
Yeah.
So they choose the wrong path and you realize you forgot to put whatever it was let's say you make a mistake laying out the map and you forgot to put some sort of block somewhere and they happen to take that path. Well, now it's kind of crucial to your game to block their path. In which case I'd say, before you can move any further, there's a cave-in that area and the roof collapses.
Yeah, although I would recommend making sure to tie that to something that they did. Like, for example, if they forgot to do a perception check when entering that hallway, you accidentally triggered a trap that made that whole hallway cave in. Traps
are another great physical obstruction because
especially at low levels of game.
Yeah, because it blows my mind. There are some times when I come prepared as a DM with tons of traps, that happens to be the time that all my players remember to do their perception, their investigation, to check for traps. The times that I don't, it amazes me how often they just keep moving through a dungeon without checking for traps. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's a very easy thing to forget because it's something you got to do every time you move.
Oh, and by the way, it doesn't have to be a deadly trap. A pitfall trap can be a chutes and ladders that takes you straight to the boss encounter that they had surreptitiously avoided.
Or straight to the dragon's getting real smoky here.
Yeah. That must be the one that we burnt up last week.
Yeah. The traps can take you to a treasure trove, They can be great things too, like you said. But great obstruction. And one more obstruction, and this one is a little far-fetched, but I've done it. It's doable. it requires some creativity and improv on the part of the DM, but it's
I remember what you're talking about.
the NPC detour. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. So it's when a character is about to do something you really don't like. Maybe they hear a voice from behind them say, I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Yeah. Or the one that I seem to recall was more like a crotchety old, like, hillbilly man or something, like miner type man or something.
Huh. I'm trying to remember which one you were talking about. Because I rely heavily on that trope.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those. But yeah. Just throwing in an NPC that you come up with off the top of your head. Just tell yourself, he's got 8 hit points and no magical abilities, and that's all I really need to know, because he's gonna do nothing other than serve the purpose of being an obstruction here. But he comes in and he says, you shouldn't do that, because one time I saw someone explode when they did that, and I'm having a heart attack, and he dies. I wouldn't do it that way. But you can do it that way, is my point. You can do that. There's definitely been moments where I feel like if you do that poorly, your adventurers will notice. But it's still better than just telling them no. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
A poorly developed character is better than just overly metagaming.
I think about the show Westworld.
Okay.
Like, honestly, the way that the hosts are designed to kind of approach the character and direct them into, like, personality appropriate adventure lines, like
yeah.
that I think is kind of really clever, and there are some really cool examples.
Yeah, Westworld is basically a Western version of D&D. Mm-hmm. You're right, because the people in the world have freedom of choice, but they're kind of being pushed around. Yeah. So I think when it all comes down to is positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
A good way to prevent any of this from being necessary is when your characters are on the right path, give them positive reinforcement. And I don't mean placate them.
Yeah,
I don't mean
not like you're training a dog or something.
Yeah, but simply if one of your characters rolls for insight on whether this crystal has some purpose or not.
Yeah, you might
don't say, you don't know. If they roll high, tell them, it looks like it fits in a hole somewhere.
Not even just that, but like beyond just whether or not they succeeded the die roll, like you can use an inspiration point in that instance, like, and actually you just pieced this together, and good on you for that. There's an inspiration point. Use these little things as clues to let them know that they're on the right track, because the thing is they want to feel like they're in control, but you also need to provide them with the stimuli to keep them moving in a certain direction. A lot of D&D
can be, for the players, can be just wandering around trying to figure out what they're supposed to be doing. I've definitely been in that position many times where there was lots of freedom, and that was great. It was nice to walk around and kind of say, I investigate this, or I, do this or that. But ultimately, I was kind of looking for the DM to give me some sort of hint as to what our purpose was, and a lot of time can get wasted trying to figure out what the fuck am I doing here.
Yeah. And, just to take it back to, what it means to win at D&D. At the end of the night, if you had a great session, you told a story, it's better than the alternative, which was to stay at home and watch a movie or watch TV.
Yeah.
Like if you find yourself in the middle of a part of an encounter that feels like it would end up on the cutting room floor, you just go ahead and cut.
Yeah.
And action. You feel free to do that. Just Avoid
any moment of Dune that you just were like, come on, should not happen inside your game.
Yeah.
If you're feeling impatient, there's probably a reason for that, and there's probably something you should do about it.
Or in the parts of Tolkien where it's just like 20 pages of genealogy of gnomes or elves.
The Moby Dick
or
syndrome.
Dwarfs or elves. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, help your characters. Don't do it in a way that is overly metagaming for them, but help them.
Yeah.
And you'll probably be able to avoid the last resort of getting your campaign back.
Yeah, you want to avoid the Deus Ex Machina at all costs.
Yeah, which is really what my NPC fail-safe is. It's a Deus Ex Machina. It's someone just coming in and going, nope, don't do that, so that you don't have to say it yourself. So, yeah, so that's it. Try not to do any of these things. If you really have to, I hope you're able to utilize them well.
Yes, but.
Remember that.
And you can do it incrementally to get back on track.
Yeah. All right, so this has been Garage Quest. I hope you've had a good time. I'm May. This is Rusty. And please remember to comment below to help other gamers like ourselves. And, subscribe.